So we are back at it again. Today we're gonna solve our set 21 from year 2021. So without further ado, let's get started with our first question here. They ask us to write down the order of rotational symmetry of this diagram. So for the first thing that I noticed is that there's 4 black dots at the corner. That's why it will be 4 as my final results. Okay, some of you might wonder why is it so. Okay, the reason behind is that, for example, if you were to take this as the indicators or the starting point, when you started to rotate it, it will fit into this part again. Same goes to here and itself. So in total, there is 4 turns that you can make and it will fit back to the original shape. That's why the result of this will be 4. So the next thing that they were asking was drawing out the line of symmetry. So let me take out my ruler. The first line that I can draw is actually this part here. Okay, slightly off. Let me draw it again. Okay, make sure you keep the results as accurate as possible. Then the other one would actually be here. Okay, the line is slightly off overall, but you know the idea. Okay, this is only first 2 lines here. There's another 2 at the center and on the other side. So let me shift it a little bit. Okay, and the last one will be here. Okay, so this will be my final results. So next one, they were asking for the probability that the train is late is 0.18. Find the probability that the train is not late. So for this, you must know that 100% is actually your total probability. And when you key in 100% to the calculator, you will actually get 1 for it. So by taking 1 minus the results there, you should be able to get your answers as 0.85. And that should be your final answer. Moving on to question 3, they were asking for the median. Okay, so you cross off 1 from the bigger one, 1 from the smaller one, repeat until you arrive at the center. So you will notice that because there's only a total of 16 students, you have 2 results at the center here. So to get to the final answer, you were supposed to take 27 plus 29 and then divide it by 2. You will get your answers as 28 for this. Okay. After you're done with the median, I will now erase everything again to double check what's the mode. For mode here, we're looking for the variables that repeated the most. So in our case, that will be 21, which is appeared twice over here. So for the range here, the smallest one is actually 12, while the largest is actually 47. By taking that into consideration, minus this 2 off, you're supposed to get your answers as 35. Moving on to question 4 here, they were asking for our ABC's value. A, there's no calculation needed because it's just vertically opposite of this 59 here. So the answer of that will be 59. And the next one here, the B is actually 37. Okay, this is what we call the corresponding angle, if not mistaken, the term for it. The 37 from the top will be transferred to the bottom. Okay, so with this in place, now we have the triangle here. They were looking for C. There's no calculation needed. Okay, because you have already all the values inside the triangle. So to find C, take 180 minus the results there. Then you should be able to get your answers. So that is actually 84. Alternatively, if you pay enough attention, you can actually use the corresponding rules again by linking these two angles up together. So because this part here is also a straight line, that should be 180 degrees as well. Moving on to question 5, this is actually some basic vector here. So just take 6 plus 8, you will get your results as 14. Negative 5 minus 1, you will get negative 6. So the answers for A here will be 14, negative 6, while the other one, remember the 3 will be multiplied into both of the variables inside. So that will be negative 12 and 21 respectively. The n term of a sequence is n squared plus 3n. Find the first 3 terms of this sequence. So what they're asking for is that you have to set, let's say n is 1. So you got 1 squared plus 3, 1. That result should be 4. While when n is 2, you have 2 squared plus 3 times 2. That will be 10 actually. And the last one here is actually n equals to 3. You got 3 squared plus 3 times 3. So that your results will be 18. So when you fill it up, it will be 4, 10, and 18 as the final answer. As for question 6, they were asking for the n-term sequence. So you should notice that the constant, the changes here is all the same constant. That is actually negative 7 on each term. Okay, so when trying to go through a different direction here to identify the zero term, instead of minusing 7, I will add 7 into it. So for that, I will get 32. So the final answer of this is actually 32 minus 7. And so that will be your 6B's results. As for the next one, we are doing simultaneous here. Okay, for me, I will use the elimination method actually. So I will try to multiply the second equation here by 2. I will get to 2x minus 10y equals to 80. So with this equation, that's my equation 3 here. So I can take 1 minus 3 to get my results. So you can actually have 2x plus y minus x minus our 2x minus 10y equals to 3 minus 80. So from this calculation, the reason why I included brackets there is because I wanted to multiply the negative into both of the terms there. So when I run this multiplication in, you will get your results as 2x plus y minus 2x plus 10y equals to negative 77. So from this calculation here, you will get your final results as 11y equals to negative 77. Y would actually be negative 7 at the end. So since your y is negative 7, your x will actually turn out to be okay, I adjust this from my equation 2. Okay, and I got my results as this. That you actually get 5 for it. So that's how you identify the results here for question 7. Moving on to question 8. To solve this, we were using the mixed number way. So 8 plus 3 here, get rid of the mixed number first. Okay, because they want you to show all the details, you can't skip the steps. So from here, the common denominator that I can set is actually 24. Okay, so my 11 will be multiplied by 3. My 6 here will be multiplied by 4. So the result is actually 33 minus 20. The balance is actually 13 over 24 here. So by looking at it, it cannot be further simplified. So my final answer, I will keep it as 13 over 24. As for 9A here, they were looking for the midpoint of AB. So according to the formula, what you should write down will be 5 plus 9 divided by 2, followed by negative 5 plus 3 divided by 2. So the outcome of this will be 7 and negative 1. Okay, so this should be it. So identifying the length of AB here, actually a way that for you to memorize it. Okay, it's very similar to what you have in your gradient formula, just that there's a plus in between it and also a square there. So you can, it's optional for you to either write X or Y first if you want to utilize the concept that you learn in gradient. Then you just put y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So from this, you actually get your results as 3 minus negative 5 square plus 9 minus 5 square. Okay, so let's key in our calculator. So it should be 8 square plus 4 square. We actually get 8.94 as the final results. Question 10 here, this is actually a transformation question. For A to get to B here, alright. So I know that this 2 point is corresponding to each other. So the results for this should be located somewhere around here. Okay, this will be the 90 degree that I'm referring to. Okay, then if I were to draw it out, there's actually a rectangle here corresponding to the size of the rectangle here. So normally I actually put 2 rulers here and then trace it this way. So these are, how big was it? Let me double check. It's actually 6 bar, same goes to 6 bar, and then 2 of the width, 2 of the width. So that's how you usually trace. Where is the center of rotation here? So now that we know the center rotation, you have to describe it. So I can say that this is a rotation of 90 degree. Then you have to check it's from A to B, means it's anti-clockwise. Okay, from the center of rotation. That is actually 0, -1. And that will be our final answer. As for A to C, however, that's clearly a shrinking. So we call this enlargement regardless of it was being enlarged or shrunken. Okay, so this here will actually be the center of enlargement. That is actually 6, 6 over there. So I can now describe it. From the point 6, 6. Okay, then you have to mention about the scale factor here. Okay, so over here, as you can see, this is actually 6 boxes, and then it was shrunken to becomes 2 at the end. So it's 6 times something, and then it gets to 2. For that, when you trace it accordingly, you will get 1/3. That's how you get your final answer. Okay, so moving on to part B, there they ask you to draw a translation 2 and 10. So which means I must erase all this that I have here, so that it's easier for you to see. So now with all these things erased, we can get to our final answer now. So there's a 210 here that you have to pay attention to. So if I move this by 2 steps, go up by 10 steps, I will actually get to 7, I suppose. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 10. Correct. So ended up here. And then by drawing the results, that will actually look something like this. So this is how you get to your final answer here with the vector translation. Moving on to question 11. So this thing here is your basic algebra. Please remember the 4 will be to the power of 4 as well. As for the a over there, in default there will be a power of 1, okay, that you have to set in. So through this calculation, 4 to the power of 4 would actually result in 256, E4, B20. Okay, so from here we are going to do our part B. First, get rid of the 2 first. So 6 divided by 2 should get 3. And to get rid of the power of 1 over 3, both sides will be cubing it. So that you got P equals to 3 to 3. That will be 27. As for the next one, I'll try to adjust the 81 into 3 first. So that's actually 3 to the power of 4 if not mistaken. Okay. And then it was dividing with 3t equals to 3, 2. So I got 4 times 2 is 8 minus t equals to 2. So I got my 8 minus 2 equals to t as my final answer. It should be 6. Moving on, we have our question 12 here. The profit of company mix decreased exponentially at a rate of 0.9% per year. In 2014, the profit was 9,500. So from 9,500, okay, keyword here is decrease exponentially. So 100% minus 0.9%. And then from 2014 to 2019, the difference here is 5 years. So with that, key in your calculator, you should get your answers as 9,080. Although they didn't specify whether to round it to the nearest dollars or whatsoever. Okay, if you want to keep it as accurate as possible, you can leave it as 9,080.13, or if you were to write it as 3 significant figures, okay, this would be the final answer. Personally, I would write both actually. Moving on, we have question 13 here. They say that the area was 32 centimeters square. Okay, so they wanted everything to be in kilometers square. You must know that this is 1 cm and this is 24,000 cm. So to make your life easier, I will first convert the 24,000 cm into kilometers. Okay, I first divide that with 100, then divide it with 1,000. Okay, I will actually get 0.24 kilometers for it, for every 1 cm. So 1 cm square would actually be 0.24 square. So we got 1 cm is actually 0.576 kilometers square. So if you were to multiply these results with 32, you will get your final answer as 1.8432 kilometers square. So for question 14, y is directly proportional to the square root of this. So that will actually be k square root x minus 3. So from these results here, you have to identify your k first by first substituting your 20 and 28 into the results. Okay, 25 square is actually 25 square root is actually 5. Your k should turn out to be 4. So your y value when k is 4 and x is 39, you actually get 4 square root is 36, square root is 6 times 4 is 24 as your final answer. Moving on, we have question 15 here. Make h the subjects. So you notice that both sides has h, so you have no choice but to multiply it out first. Okay, all the h is now categorized together. Extract it out. You should have this as the balance. And your h final answer will be g 2m plus g. So that's how you find your final results. Moving on to question 16, they were looking for the gradient here. So I will actually take this point. That will be our 0, 2. Another reason behind is that if they were to ask us for the equation, like for example in part B, I would have identified the C in the formula already. Then the other one, I will choose a whole number, which is this. That will be 4, negative 1. So when you run the gradient calculation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, you will get negative 3 over 4 as the gradient's value. So from here, you get this. And then, like I said, there's a reason behind I selected the 0, 2 point there. That will be our plus 2 over here. So they were looking for the perpendicular line. So our gradient is our m original times m new equals to negative 1. So you might wonder why I did this. Okay, this is actually the fixed formula for you to identify the perpendicular line's gradient. So m new here is what we are looking for. So times throw to the back, it becomes divide. So actually get 4 over 3 as your final answer. Substitute the 12 and negative 7 into it. Okay, run some basic calculation. So you got your C as negative 23. So from here, if you were to try to write it in the formulas or arrangement that they wanted, this would actually be your final answer. Okay. Question 17. A bag contains 3 blue buttons, 8 white buttons, and 5 red buttons. 2 were picked at random without replacement. Okay. Find the probability that both are either both red or both white. So we have two situations here. One is red, red, and then the other one is white, white. So in total, there is 16 buttons altogether. After each draw, there's no replacement, so it will decrease automatically. For red, at the first draw, if it can be 5, then the next one it will be 4. It will decrease as you draw out buttons. So same goes to white here. White, there was 8. After the second draw, it becomes 7. So let's try to work it out. So the final answer of this would actually be 19 over 60. Okay, if you were to write it in decimal, make sure you copy down everything that were there. Okay, so that you get the full marks for it. As for question 18, they were asking for PS SQ is 45, which means the total here is actually PQ, but PS part only consists 4 out of 9 of it. How do I get the 9? That's the total ratio where you take 4 plus 5. Okay, so as for SQ, however, it will be 5 over 9 of PQ. Okay, so they were looking for OS here. So the first thing that I would do is actually find my PQ. That will go through PO plus OQ. So basically negative A plus B for it. OS, however, that will be OS OP plus PS because the direction is the easiest. So OP was A, but PS, however, that will be 4 over 9 of our PQ that we identified earlier. So that when we write it down, it will be this. So next thing that you're gonna do is to run your final calculation. So you got 5 over 9 of A plus 4 over 9 of B. So that's how you get your final answer. Question 19, sketch out a tangent graph. So tangent graph, there's slightly trick here, which is the 90 here is very important. You must make sure that the line that you drew doesn't touches the 90. It can get close to it but cannot touches it. Okay, and then since they wanted you to draw until 360, you must also draw a guiding line for your own reference at the 270 part. As you proceed with your drawings now, okay, you can get closer to the line but never touches it. Then hit back to 0 there. Then from 180, stretch it down. Okay, so these are the things that I will be drawing. So they're slightly off over here. Okay, join it back, then you should be able to get this as your final answer. Then for the next one, tangent x equals to 1 over 5. X is actually tangent inverse 1 over 5. So quadrant concept, all school teacher crazy. So you have your answers in part 1 and 3 here. So key in tangent inverse 1 over 5. You will get your answers as 11.3 degree, and the other one is actually 180 plus 11.3. One answers will be here, the other one will be all the way here. Kindly take note that these 2 degrees are the same, that's why I took 180 plus 11.3. So that will get you 11.3 as well as 191.3 as your final answer for this question here. Okay, so let's go on to our last question, I suppose. The distance between 2 towns is 600 kilometers, corrected to nearest 10 kilometers. The car takes 8 hours and 40 minutes, corrected to the nearest minute. Okay, so find this travel to this distance, lower bound of the average speed. Lower bound for speed, which means our distance and time. Time need to be longer, distance should be lesser. so that you can get the lower average. So from this, our distance is actually 600. Okay, the rounding value of it is 10 divided by 2. You must decide whether to plus or minus 5. Since we wanted the lower one, then I must minus 5 from it. As for the 10 minutes, however, okay, you must plus minus 5. So the time that we used was 8 hours and 40 minutes. Okay, make sure you write it in mixed number so that you don't mess it up. And then add 5 minutes into it. Then you should be able to get your answers. Okay, run your calculation. So your final answer of this will actually be 68. So overall, this paper is pretty straightforward. Okay, I would say question that you might get confused will be this one only, the one from question 19. Okay, question 20 here, I won't consider this upper bound lower bound question as hard, because it's pretty much your typical question that you see all the time for upper bound lower bounds. So that's pretty much it. So I hope you find this video helpful. This is a rather short video here. I think I only have paper 23 and 41, so I try to upload it as soon as possible here. So wish you all the best for your upcoming examination. Bye bye.